And happy Saturday to everybody out there. I want to thank you for being with me. I see there's about 20 of you out there, so we're going to get this little party started. And if you hear my Google noise going in the background from Google Chats, I want to make sure that I give a big shout out to Connor. He's probably watching this with his dad, James. So good morning, Connor and James down in St. Louis. Good morning. And let's see who's in. Sean Woods is here. Morning. Free BS. Coffee time. That's right. I've already had probably too much coffee for the morning. We got a lot of stuff to get through personally here at home, and we'll talk about all the things. Jason Walter, my buddy, Grandstream buddy over in Iowa. How you doing? Alonzo, good morning. Everybody piling in. If you're just piling in, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Smash that thumbs up. Smash that like button. Whatever, you know. So, hello from all around the world. I'm glad you're all here. We're going to talk about several things today. And I'm just telling James, good morning. We're talking about several things. One thing that we're going to do here, I am going to take questions. I am going to open it up for phone calls. But what we are going to do, and you see Jason says in the comments that he loves the GWN 7630s. Those access points are so solid. I mean, you set them up, you tweak them, you can run voice on them. So there are a lot of people who don't understand fully how wireless works. And I'll tell you, I am not a physics whiz, right? So some of the magical physics that when you get into real super deep stuff, like people, this is all they do. Some of that stuff, I have to sit back, I have to read about it because I don't understand it right out of the gate. But topically, to get a network up and going, we have all the tools, all the training, all those things that we need. But some people have those tools and don't use them and then don't understand about wireless. I've heard several explanations over the last few days about how some wireless things work, and they were cringeworthy. But the very first thing that you need to remember is that your normal Wi-Fi is a half duplex connection. That's one of the very first things that you need to remember. So that means you can't send and receive simultaneously. So normal Wi-Fi is going to be send and then going to be receive. So just remember that. Let's see. I got a text message. Let's read this text message. This is from a friend of mine. And he says, "Hey, network loser, what are you up to today?" He obviously doesn't know we're live streaming, but I am going to reply to him, tell him to join the live stream because I'm going to answer his question. And when he pings me and lets me know that he's on there, I'll come back to his question and we'll answer it because I've been getting this question quite a bit as well. So if he doesn't ping me, we will go ahead and we will just answer the question and kind of be done with it. So, hey, there's James. All right, so this morning, let's talk about a couple of things we're going to do. You can see that the title says Synology Saturday and UCM Upgrades 2. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to create a dedicated video based on this, but we are going to take a Synology unit that I've got and we're going to run Plex on it. And then we'll talk about some of the logistics of backing up your own DVD collection. There's a lot of software out there. There's a lot of information out there. Unfortunately, sometimes there's not a lot of help because of the legal way that things can't be packaged together. When you run into issues, you can have to do a lot of research, but I'm going to talk about a few of those things, and I'm not going to package them together in a way to get any of us in trouble. But we are going to talk about Plex. We are going to set it up. Now, Plex is a great piece of software, and it runs on all kinds of hardware. I mean, all kinds of hardware, down to, Raspberry Pis. I don't know if it'll run on a Raspberry Pi Zero or not. It would surprise me if it doesn't run on a Raspberry Pi Zero. That's how ubiquitous Plex is at this point. So By the way, if you can hear me, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button down there. That does affect the YouTube algorithm. So let's see what is going on here. My buddy asked for the URL for the live stream, so I'm going to send that over to him real quick. And he'll join, and then he'll text me when he's in there, and then we will answer this Unifi question for him. Now, what else are we going to do? So, hey, Ryan, the immature dad from up around Chicago, is in the house. Can't wait to get you on an interview. You know, we can do interview style, and we're going to turn that into a podcast. So that's coming too. Everybody, of course, this year has had a lot of the best laid plans, and Mother Nature said, "Meow." And so, you know, we're all just kind of doing the best we can. And if you'll bear with me for just a second, I'm going to grab my stool, which is right here. It's really great. I found this this stool at Goodwill, and it's perfect for my stand-up desk because now I'm sitting, and I'm short enough you can't tell that I'm not standing, right? So am I standing? Am I sitting? Standing, sitting. Nobody knows. So, you know, we all need a little bit of fun right now, right? But anyway, this stool is really cool, and the reason this stool is really cool is because it looks like it's made out of logs. Like somebody went out to a tree and like hacked off some limbs and then like put this in. They might have. I'll have to post a picture of it on social media, but. Speaking of that, if you didn't watch the hour and 12-minute show with myself and Joe from Cajoling Technologies, you'll know that I was in the middle of filming a very important video series for all of you, and this SD card had the audacity to die, right? So this is the first time ever, that I've used a teleprompter. If you've watched my videos, you've been on the live stream, you know this is all from the hip, all from the head. Use it while you can. One of these days may not have it, right? But there are so many high points about this hardware that I want to make sure that I hit. I felt that I needed to script some of this. And so I've never read off of a teleprompter before, so I've got my setup out there. I've got my laptop behind the camera. I'm 12 takes in. I can't get it right. If you've noticed some of the videos, you'll notice the lighting in the video is getting better. I am working on that. But got that down, got the audio down. Now it's time for Willie to make some cool videos. Get into the 12th cut of this, literally. It's like 1 a.m. And I'm 8 minutes in. The flow's good. I'm reading. My reading comprehension that evening was off the charts. And we get into it, and this card right here, which is a Kingston 64 gig, it is, I believe it's a class 10, decides to die, and my camera goes haywire. So yeah, so I got to start that all over again. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just spend a couple hours just memorizing the script, and then just have some cue cards or something. So that if I lose my place, I can look down. We'll have to see how that goes. But there's so many cool things about this Grandstream hardware that you need to know. I mean, Grandstream hardware does stuff people can't even realize. It's fantastic. So you're going to see, we're going to get really into the weeds on that. And then if you follow me on social media, you'll see that I posted this bad boy. And I have now upgraded from a paper clip to a SIM eject tool for a reset tool. This came with my Pixel 3, so I'll probably lose that by the end of the weekend. So real quick, before we get into anything else, let's take a look at the comments here real quick. And let's see if my buddy... okay, so my buddy's in. And he says, grab your stool. That's kind of disgusting. And he's glad that I got a haircut. So I am glad that my buddy is here. So let's take a look at his question real quick. He says, Dear Willie, quick question. I know you're awesome, and I'm calling on you for help. He didn't say that. I just have to give him a hard time. I'm handing over a Unifi client to another company. all I need to do is export the site and then send them the file, then forget the devices. Yeah. So what I would do, if you're listening to me, sir, I would not forget the devices out of the gate. What I would do is I would do the site export. I would send them the file, and then I would make sure because if you forget the devices, they're not going to have a chance to do the migration piece on their side, so they're not going to get the IP or the FQDN. Heads up, FQDN is what we should all be using outside of your LAN. They're not going to get that FQDN to point the devices to the new controller. So I understand sometimes it sucks handing clients over. It happens. I trade clients with other consultants all the time, mostly inbound and on. Anyway, but what you need to do is you need to make sure that they get the migration done first, then forget the devices, and I would probably actually just delete the site once they've confirmed that all of the devices are being seen in the new Unifi controller. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that answered your question. Does that make sense to everybody on there, that we would not forget the devices before they confirm that the site's migrated? Because we all remember that if you forget devices and they're not adopted, if you forget them and they're still hooked to your controller, then it factory defaults the devices. Sorry about that. Got to have my morning protein shake. Sean Woods, you'll be glad to know that I was down to 197 pounds this morning. So we are cutting that fat. All right. Over to the chat. Let's see. Hope everyone's well. Yeah, Matthew. It's very sad that SD card went south on us. Good morning, Lisbon, Portugal. Yeah, FQDN is really the way that we should be handling these kinds of things. So Carlo says that is even part of the Ubiquity Unifi Network Specialist training. So, yeah. So there are some other products that you should be looking at. Don't paint yourself into a corner and only recommend Unifi, because Unifi is good for certain things and it's good for not certain things. And I actually have had a lot of customers lately because Ubiquity seems to be in this direction and no one knows where they're going. There's no real public direction. Nobody's really saying anything. Firmware's screwing things up. I've had a lot of customers leave, and I'm not trying to convince them to go back. I'm not trying to stop them. I'm helping them find solutions, and you should too for your customers. Find solutions that work now, not on promises of things that may never actually come true. If we look at the history of some of these companies, things never come to fruition, and we've got problems that have been hanging out for 5, 6, 7 years. So do yourself a favor. You will look much better in the eyes of your customers if you don't promise things. I would never promise anything on Ubiquity. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Love the company. Love some of their products. I would never promise or deploy on a promise from any company. Not just them, but any company. So you have to deploy solutions now that work now, that make sense now. Not what might happen, 5 years down the road. So, Terry, I actually have a Natonix switch over there on the shelf. I've had it for a little while. I love Natonix for WISP switches. You could even run them in the office. But I am going to feature the Natonix. I've got a special video coming at some point. I'm not going to tell you soon, but it's on the list. And the list of videos that I have is this long, just like every other content creator. But I've got one specifically involving that switch. So let's see. Back to the comments here. The movie archive, one at home, one at work. So, Dave, I don't know if I saw your question. I'm thinking it was something to do about Plex. Based on what Jason is saying, I would love to duplicate the movie archive on 2 Synologies, one at work and one on home. That's easily done. So if you have a single Synology device and you have Plex on it, we can just set up an rsync job from one Plex to the other and have it run constantly. And once you update Plex on one server, then it starts automatically rsyncing over to the other server. Does that make sense, folks? So the immature dad asks, what do you think about Meraki? Well, I think that Meraki is expensive. I've messed with some of the gateways. I pulled out some of the gateways, so I've replaced their gear. What I saw of the web interface, I think it's more polished than some of the solutions that are out there. I think it's expensive, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. I think that we can build solutions that do what these tens of thousands of dollars in licensing. If you want to learn and you want to help your customers and you really want to understand and be able to troubleshoot and things like that, you can build networks lower cost that perform like higher end networks. And anybody who tells you that you can't, they really don't understand all the pieces. They're stuck in this box and they can't get outside of that box, because everything exists to be able to do this. Between open source and low cost programs, you can build networks that function like you spent tons of money on them, but you really didn't. So, all right, so let's see here. Yeah, Meraki is very expensive. Hey, Unky Joe in the house. I told Unky Joe that after all this stuff is done, that all of us smaller channels, we need to have a get-together in real life somewhere. So we'll have to figure out kind of like where the center is when we're all allowed to travel and get back to that. But all right, back to the comments real quick. Meraki web interface takes a bit to get used to. Yeah, it's different. So Matthew McGuire and anybody else who's noticed that at the end of my videos, I haven't been talking about the Discord channel. The Discord channel is still alive, but I haven't been in there in a very long time. I am going to be switching it over to a different piece of software. I actually have Tim looking into this for me. Tim also has a WordPress Discord, but the thing that I don't like about Discord is it's kind of like real time. Otherwise, I got to scroll through like 500 messages. So we're going to be switching over to another piece of software, and Tim has been looking into that. So it's not one of those things that I'm going to say soon. All I will say is we are investigating that, because I want to be able to provide a better service in those types of mediums. So also, anybody who is installing Unifi in compliance-driven environments needs to go check out the Unifi community and check out a post out there about bad HTTP headers that is still not fixed 3 months after it's been reported. Steve asks, Willie, are you a full-time content creator now or still working at IT company full-time? I am not a full-time content creator. Hold on just a second. This is my mom. I'm going to reply to her and say, I'll call you back. All right. So, I am not a full-time content creator. If I was a full-time content creator, I would probably have 4 or 5 videos out a week. So I am not a full-time content creator. I post more on social media at this point, but I'm trying to get a backlog of videos built so that I can at least get 2 videos out a week. I still do my full-time career, and that's, of course, my number one priority. And then I do after hours on that. That's when I do the consulting and I do the content creation. And then also there's family time and stuff like that. So a lot of this stuff gets pushed to later in the evening into the early morning, which is why you see my hours go to like 12:30 a.m. So, and then Saturday and Sunday mornings. So no, I am not a full-time content creator. Unky Joe says, ever since that power supply blew in my 48-port PoE switch, I've been very leery of Ubiquiti. Yeah, so I'm not going to say anything bad about the company. I don't have anything bad to say. What I have is like a wish list that they would let us know where they're going, which they won't. That they would actually add real features to I mean, you're buying a UDM Pro, you're buying a USG Pro, you're buying all these devices, and we're still limited to one WAN IP address. I'm just that simple fact right there limits where I'm going to use this device. In fact, I get people that email me every week, and this is I'm not even making this up. Every week, they've already purchased the gear, and they say, I got a block of 5 IP addresses, or I've got whatever. The last one that I just literally got last night was, I've got a block of 5 IP addresses. I need the USG to do X, X, and X. And I emailed back and I said, thanks for reaching out. I'm glad that you got this project, but I have to let you know that the USG cannot do this. You can do it in a hacky way, but I'd be very leery of any vendors who do it in the hacky way, because what happens when that vendor gets hit by a bus? I mean, the JSON file is such a piece of garbage that Ubiquiti doesn't even support it anymore via their live chat. They used to configure those for people, and they pulled the plug on that. So when a company pulls the plug on doing that themselves, and yeah, they've got some super dude now in the forum who's was super proficient, like some of us content creators on the product, and now they've hired him. This is like the second social media person that they've hired to do support, and he's a great guy. But you can't hang the size of Ubiquiti. You can't hang all of your support on one dude, right? So just whatever. But you're going to see there are lots of other products, and I mean, you even see some of the other content creators. Ingenious has sent us. I got 2 Ingenious APs. I don't have, the whole thing, but my project for those is a little bit different than that, So, I mean, and people reach out to the content creators all the time to do different product reviews. A lot of them, I say no, just because I look at the product and I don't think it's something that I can believe in. I do a little bit of research, and I don't want to push junky products. And I'm not saying they're necessarily junky, but I don't want to push something that I feel is junky off onto my audience. That would be very unfair. So, yeah. All right, back to the comments. Unky Joe says, I have a service call this evening, except I am exempt from the shelter in place. Got to go replace a power supply. Yeah, so most of the states are in, don't leave unless you have to get food or whatever. So, yeah, I don't do solicited product reviews, and I never get paid for my reviews because I believe that once I get paid, now I do take swag, t-shirts and stuff like that, but I take it after the fact. I don't do it beforehand. That's not, I believe that creates, depending on what it is, it can create a conflict of interest. It can make a biased review and things like that. And the reason that you all watch me is because you want the real scoop, right? So I try not to do anything that would cheapen that opinion. Nathan says, I wish they would allow a self-install of Protect. Cloud 2 Plus is 200 power for some applications. So if you have 4 cameras at home and you want to use Protect, it's a great product. I will never install it in a business. Let's talk about Unifi Access. So it's in beta, so I can't say too much about it, but are you going to trust a company with no real tech support, with no phone number to call when stuff goes south for access control for your building? I'm probably not. If you have the authenticity of your video questioned in a courtroom, how's Ubiquiti going to back you up on that? I don't know, but I'm not chancing it. I'm going to go with products that are established, that use real-world standards, and will stand behind you in these kinds of situations. All right. Somebody says, when is Grandstream releasing new UCM hardware? So I have a UCM 6302 sitting in on the shelf that I am beating up. It's in the beta program. And the OS for it is based on, or not the OS, but the version of Asterisk that is running on that appliance is based on 16. They have got a lot of features built into this UCM 6300 series that go above and beyond what's in the 6200 series. Do you need those? Depends on your application. Based on what I'm seeing, I can't tell you a release date. I can't give you an MSRP. All I'm saying is if you're deploying VoIP today with this is just like the Ubiquiti conversation that we had. Don't plan an install around the 6300 series. If you need a UCM now, go with the 6200 series. In fact, we're going to upgrade my production 6200 series and hope that everything goes well. We're going to do that here on the live stream here shortly. So let's see. Back to the comments. I'm migrating away from Unifi to get some solid QS for voice over IP. Picked up a Cisco SG250 XP. Let's see. That scrolled by way too fast. Do I know anything about the Ubiquiti UMG? I do not. I do not. Yeah, the UCM 6304 will be a... yeah, okay. Good topics, and we should dive deeper into them on life outside of Unifi Saturday. Sean must be in a hurry and wanting to get somewhere. So, like, really, most of us probably don't have any places that we're going to be running out to at the moment. Depending on the weather situation, we may go find a trail and go for a walk because I've been working from home all week and my back is like screaming. All right, so at the request of Sean Woods, Mr. Sean Woods, and Sean, I just have to give you a hard time. Sean and I have been, I would consider us friends, buddies, confidants for a little while. So I think I can give you a hard time, and he knows that I can get as good as I give. So anyway, let's break it down. Starting Synology Saturday. All right. What I've got here is right here. This is a Synology DS115J. Can you believe it or not? This device is still supported by Synology. Now, it is a single disc. It's kind of like the home user model. And you can see on the front that the light is flashing. That means it's not set up because I had this in place. Now, this particular model, I do not have a spinning disc in. In this model, I think it's a 500 gig Crucial SSD. But when people get into a bind, this is the unit that I loan out just because they just need some files on there or whatever. So I think that it's been factory defaulted because I know where it was and I do not want this plugged into the internet with the data that could be on there. But I'm 99% sure that it was on my checklist. I checked the checklist and I did it. But anyway, if you have a Synology and you need to factory default it, I wanted to kind of go over that real quick. So you've got the unit, and on the back of the unit, on this one, we got power, we've got two USBs, we've got the Kensington lock, we've got the fan, which is running, we've got the Ethernet here, and then we've got the reset button. Now, if you've just forgotten your admin username and password, which, by the way, happens all the time, no shame in that game, you can hold this for a specified amount of time, and it will just reset the admin account. It will enable the admin account in case you didn't have an admin account, and like if you use something else like your name, and then it will enable the default password. Or if you hold this longer, it is going to do a factory reset, which will wipe all the data. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my nifty Swifty, 50, whatever. We're going to take this reset tool and we're going to insert it into the reset hole. You're going to feel the click. Actually, you know what? It's probably going to like power cycle on me since I did that, but I want to see if you can hear this. Let's see. I don't know if you could hear the reset button go in there or not, but now I'm just going to count to like 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000, 4, 1000, 5, 1000, 6, 1000, 7, 1000, 8, 1000, 9, 1000, 10, 1000. I don't know if that's the official instructions. I have to check it out. In fact, we can look that up while we're waiting, but it is going to reboot and it should wipe all of the data off of the drive. So real quick, let me just search Synology factory reset. And it says, let's see. Yeah, 5 seconds. You hold, if you hold it for 5 seconds, you get, let's see. All right, hold on. I want to make sure that this is official. All right, 5 seconds, and you hear a beep, you will immediately then hold down the reset button again for 5 seconds, and then let go of that. Your NAS will beep a couple times, and then the NAS drive will reboot. A couple minutes later, the status light will blink orange. DSM is now ready to be installed. So now, once this thing is reset, which it looks like it is, now what I got to do is I got to go plug it in real quick. So I've got to do that, but then we'll get it back on the network. Nathan, the reset click is very satisfying. By the way, if you all don't know Nathan, Nathan is the creator of NetTool, and I just upgraded my app. He sent me the beta app. I do work with him. I upgraded my beta app this morning, and watch for some new NetTool videos coming soon. We are actually in the process of planning a 2-hour free class that I'm going to put out there. It's going to be 2 hours. That's nothing but NetTool, how to use your NetTool, how to get the most value out of your NetTool. So that is in process. I was thinking like I was going to put it behind a paywall, and I'm like, no, that's dumb. Just give it away to the people, right? So as far as that goes, that 2-hour class, when it's finished, probably Q3 this year, that will be free. So let me go to the comments real quick. Unky Joe says, I love Synology products, but they are underpowered. It depends on which model you get, Unky Joe. Let's see. So, Unky Joe, virtualization, actually, I have a client that has 64 gigs of RAM in one of their rack stations, and we are running Windows 10 virtual machines for VDI, and it's working just fine. Now, they're not streaming video, they're not streaming audio through those, but they are logging into like Open Microsoft Office and things like that, and it's great. Yeah, Synology Drive is also super solid, and it's I can't say enough about it. I mean, we're migrating literally everything away from traditional Windows file shares over to Synology. So real quick, what I've got to do, because this whole setup that you can't see right here is connected back wirelessly. What I've got to do is I got to take this Synology real quick. I got to go plug it in, power it on. I got to make sure I don't stub my toe, break my toes, and get back here within a reasonable amount of time so that I don't have a bunch of people leave the live stream because they think we're not doing anything. Actually, you know what I could do? Check this out. I will see if my son will do me a solid. We'll see. Let's see. Maybe. Let's see here. See if I can Snapchat my boy and see if I can get him to help me. He's never done this before, so we'll just have to give him some quick instructions. But he is actually going to start training on phone systems with me. So the accountant says, you know, hey, you got jobs, you can pay your kid. He can get a paycheck. So we're going to teach him a little bit more about responsibility and things like that. But yeah, Unky Joe has some videos. If you don't know who Unky Joe is, go check out Unky Joe's channel. He does have some flash station videos. I have a customer with a flash station, and that thing is crazy. So yeah, 10 gig NICs. So I'm in the process of editing a video where we installed a UC 3200. I don't know if he's on his way down here. I hear arguing. Any of you with multiple children that have been cooped up for 2 weeks probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So, hey, Nathan, Alonzo here was able to get his company to purchase NetTools for the field techs. Hey, Sean Wood wants to know, is there any chance of Unky Joe and Willie Howe doing Synology videos together? There's always that chance. So I'm always open to the proposition of working with other content creators. So I think I hear my son, and I hear my daughter giving orders, so that's pretty normal. I hear somebody. Is that you, William? Oh, that is not William. That is my wife. So William must still be in bed. Maybe didn't get my Snapchat. So maybe I can have... You all want my wife to take over the live stream while I plug this in? Would that be fun? Oh, she heard that, and I think she literally she literally ran. All right, I think. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna grab this NAS. I'm gonna run it to the rack. I'm gonna plug it in. So let's get all the things ready. What do I need to get ready? Okay, I need an Ethernet cable. If you're in the UK, this is an Ethernet cable. And I'm going to plug it into my router. If you're in the United States, I'm going to translate that. I'm going to plug it into my router. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run around there. I am going to grab the Synology. I'm going to run it to the network, the POP. I'm going to run, maybe. And then I'm going to plug it in, I'm going to power it on, and I'm going to come right back. So stay here. If people are hopping in and out, chat amongst yourselves in the chat. I'm literally going to, like, somebody start, as soon as you see me leave this door with the Synology, somebody start a timer. I want to know exactly how long this takes me. And if you hear loud crashes and bangs, somebody call to make sure I'm okay. All right, let's do this. Oh, first snag. Sean, I'm getting my cardio. All right, time. How long did it take? Somebody got a time for me? Nobody's got a time. I did not take coffee with me. That would have been hilarious. By the way, am I sitting? Am I sitting on the stool or am I standing? No, I'm kidding. I'm leaning against the wall. All right, so, whew. Yeah, Terry says it took an eternity. So we're going to wait a few minutes and because I cannot hear the beep from where we're at. However, what I am going to do is I'm going to get my web browser fired up in anticipation that that we are going to be getting this thing up and going here shortly. So somebody says it took me about 1 minute. Somebody else says too long. The wait was too long. All right, so it is already actually online. So let me see if I can switch this over. Oh, that's beautiful. I love the Stream Deck when it works. All right, so those of you who are here for Synology Saturday, we are going to install DSM on this DS115J, and then we are going to install Plex, and we're going to talk about all the things Plex. All right, so when you first plug your Synology NAS into your network, you can go to find.synology.com. If you're in the same subnet, if you're on the same network, you can do this. If you're not in the same network, this is probably not going to work. Go to find.synology.com. It's going to find however many Synologies. It'll even find routers. It'll find all the things. All right, so we are going to connect to this. We're going to accept the EULA. Here, let me make sure you all read it. Did you get that? All right. Click OK there. Now, this is going to... Oh, no. Oh, no. No hard disk. This is a fail. This is a fail. So it looks like maybe that SSD, did I pull the SSD out of that? That's a great question. Or maybe with all the jostling, it came unhooked. That is no good. All right, so fail number one. We always have to have a failure on the live stream. So let's talk about, let's do this. I have another Synology NAS, if you can imagine. There's another Synology NAS on the network. 7. All right, so we'll use one that's already plugged in. All right, so we're going to log in to the Synology. So not all is lost, right? I've got enough Synologies here that we're still going to be able to install it, just not on the unit that we want. So Jerry Scroggin says, I put a UDM Pro in my home last month. Should I replace it with a Synology router? That's totally up to you, Jerry. Here's what I'll say about the UDM Pro. In the last 2 weeks, since people have started working from home more and more, I've had 3 customers return their UDM Pros. What does that say? I don't know. You have to draw your own conclusions. All right, so here we are. We're logged into the 918 Plus. We're going to haul on over to Package Center. Looks like we got some updates. Hope this is nothing embarrassing. Nope, nothing embarrassing. But I will come back to those later. So this is a NAS where I do a lot of testing. And we are going to go down to, you could do Media Server by Synology as well as a very solid product along with Video Station. But we are going to go down to Plex. Now, Plex is actually a Synology partner. So I must have missed it. Did I miss Plex somewhere? A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, P, Plex. Do I have it installed already? No, why am I not seeing it? I know the Plex runs on, okay, there it is. Plex Media Server. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to install Plex. Now, something to note that is very important. If you're going to install Plex, Silas, this one only has 2 gigs. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, James does a lot of voice over IP subcontracting for me. And so he's part of the Willie Howe family. And UCM is much more end user friendly. And we're going to do some videos on that. But anyway, all right, so here we got Plex installed. Now, one thing to note that is very important is if you install Plex, you cannot do this on a Synology. You cannot do this over a VPN. I've verified this. You have to be physically-ish. I guess you could have some sort of weird VPN setup where you're on the same L2 network. But for the sake of most users, 99% of the base, if you're going to install Plex, you need to be on the same subnet or you need to be on a subnet behind that subnet. So like this machine that I'm on right now is actually running through the Amplify Alien and not in access point mode. It's running in router mode, which plugs into my main network. And this Synology is on the main network. So I am like behind it and it's going to see me as part of that. So we installed Plex using the Plex package. We're going to open Plex. Now it's going to come up and it's going to walk us through like how do you want to continue. And if you have a Plex account already, you would sign in with whatever mechanism that you wanted to sign in with. So I'm going to continue with my email. First of all, I can't remember, but I'm going to make sure. Okay, it doesn't show that. That's good. All right, so never save that. So now I've logged into my Plex account. Now this wizard is going to finish the setup. So it tells us Plex runs on the computer where you keep your media. Plex scans your media, automatically organizes it, makes it beautiful. Can verify Plex makes it beautiful. Play your media on any screen with your favorite Plex app. True, can verify that. Guess what? We got it. Click OK there. All right, so now what we're going to do is they're going to give us the little bit of this advertising, which is cool because Plex needs to make money to keep pumping out great software. So if you want a Plex Pass, I am not an affiliate. Jason over at Bite My Bits is an affiliate. So if you want to give somebody affiliate dollars for this, because Jason does so many videos on Plex, go over and use Jason at Bite My Bits. Use his Plex affiliate link, and show Jason some love over there at Bite My Bits. So you can get the lifetime pass, $119.99. I am going to pass for now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set up our server. And it's going to ask us, what do you want to call it? And hey, great, we found this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to call this, we're just going to leave it H5DS918. Then if you have universal plug and play on your network and you leave allow me to access my media outside my home checked, it will try to go to your router, tell universal plug and play, hey, we need to forward the ports for Plex over to this box. Well, I've got a couple Plex boxes here. My other ports, because of the router that I have, I don't use universal plug and play. I have those actually forwarded to my other Plex. So this is not going to work for this. But like I said, if you've got it, if you're running a USG, UDM, Edge router, Draytech, name a router, most of them support universal plug and play. I just don't have mine configured. You can leave this if this is the only Plex box in your network. For this example, I'm going to unplug it and I'm going to click next. Now it's going to finish the setup on the Synology. So what does it do? It creates a share on the Synology called Plex. And then you have to make sure that you give your user access to that, right? So here we're going to log in. We're going to go back over here. So here it says add to your library, right? So we've got these other few steps. But what we need to do is we need to go over to, let's go to File Station. And you're going to see that by default, my user cannot even see the Plex share, right? So right now, my WHOW user cannot add videos to that Plex share. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the handy dandy control panel. I'm going to go to the handy dandy shared folder icon, and I'm going to find that Plex share. And I'm going to edit the Plex share. I'm going to go to permissions. I'm going to go to WHOW. I'm going to give WHOW read-write access to that Plex share. Now, when I come back over to File Station, guess what? Now I can see Plex. And you can just start dropping files right into this. So you can connect to this over SMB if you've got it enabled, Apple File Share if you've got it enabled, or you could upload content right here through File Station using upload skip or upload overwrite. So we'll add a library and we're going to do movies, and I'm literally going to call it movies English. Now you can browse for media folder, and what we're going to do is we're going to go volume 1. We're going to go to Plex, and we're going to add. And then we're going to add the library. We're going to go next. I'm not going to use any apps, and we're going to go done. So now you can see that we're logged in. There is an update available. I haven't done the update yet. So I might do a video on that. I think I'm going to release this as a standalone video. If you think I should release this Plex setup on Synology as a standalone video, let me know. I'm probably going to do it anyway, but I'm always interested to hear what the audience has to say. All right, so let's see here. So, so you can see that the other one that we have is called HOW files, right? And you can see the recently added movies. Now, I own, you can see the other Plex servers there. There we go. So yeah, so I am members of other Plex servers. We files of media. That's whatever. You can share your Plex. You're not pirating movies or whatever. But so you can see I could physically right now, and we're just getting through this. So if I want to see if anybody's added anything new, I can come up here and tell it to scan the libraries, and it'll increment this number. So right now you can see out of the about 700 DVDs that we've got, we just started this process this week. My son has gotten through 41 of those. And so you can kind of see what's in it. Last night we did watch Dangerous Minds, which is a pretty good movie. Bubba Hotep with Bruce Campbell, hilarious movie. And of course, what IT person doesn't like the Back to the Future movies, or Beetlejuice? Love Beetlejuice. So we're working through getting this all converted over. Now, you're asking yourself, how are you converting these DVDs, right? So you've got all these DVDs, you want to convert them over. There's a couple of things that you're going to need. You are going to need a machine, a computer that has a DVD drive that can read DVDs. You are also, and Sean Woods is pinging me outside. So Sean pointed out Frozen 2. So that is actually not Frozen 2. That is actually Frozen 1, and my son didn't rename the file, so it misidentified it as Frozen 2. My wife had the exact same question. I do not condone piracy at all. You should only be, converting movies that you own, content that you own. So looks like there was a little bit of a hiccup there in the live stream as well. We froze for just a second. But we're back now. So, like I said, I do not condone piracy at all. Artists work hard. They should be paid for their work, just like you like to be paid for your work, like I like to be paid for my work. So, no piracy. That is really not Frozen 2. In fact, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fix the file name. And then we're going to rescan because I am, let's see here. So I'm actually going to do this, but I don't want you to see my credentials and stuff, so I'm kind of doing it like off to the side here. So let's see, Frozen. But it really is just regular Frozen. I can show you the DVD. I don't feel like they need to keep justifying myself here, but yeah. So if I switch back over to this, you will see that the media library is now refreshing, and you will see that now says Frozen, and you are going to see that it will, as it updates. So that's a really nice thing about Plex, is as long as you have the correct file names, it's going to go out and it's going to make sure that it grabs all the proper art and all that. You don't have to provide any of that. And I don't know why it thinks that is Frozen 2, but that is a real problem. It should not be Frozen 2 unless my son played some sort of a trick on me. Let's see if we can see what this is. No, so this is the original Frozen. I'm not going to show any more of it because I don't want to get in trouble. But it is the original Frozen, not Frozen 2. All right, enough of that. Yeah, we could edit the name. So just some things you'll have to watch out for, some boondoggles there. But overall, this works very, 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 very well. Okay, so back to how are you going to take your DVDs, your media collection, and put them on Plex? So the program that I use is called Handbrake. And we are going to go to the Handbrake web page here. And even Handbrake will tell you that this is not used for piracy. It's not used for illegal things. So please keep that in mind. No one here is condoning piracy. You're going to download Handbrake. And one of the most, so because of the way all these legal things that we're talking about, because of all the way that they work, there are certain software, certain files that Handbrake cannot package with the download. And one of those is a DLL file that you actually need to read DVDs. So if you download Handbrake and you convert a movie, and you get all kinds of like pixelated stuff, there is a lib DVD CSS file that you will have to search for, and then they legally cannot package it together, and then you have to copy that over to your Handbrake folder. So make sure that make sure that you have that file. If you're having problems ripping DVDs, make sure that you get the lib DVD CSS. Now, like I said, Handbrake cannot legally package that together. So, and what we'll do is we can just do a Google search, which somehow my web browser, I think because of McAfee that came with this machine, got switched over to Yahoo. DVD CSS. Yeah, and you can read all of the things about the problems, but you have to have lib DVD CSS, and you copy it to the Handbrake folder. So always make sure you are within your legal rights when converting this media. So that's it. And so a lot of us are stuck at home, or we have people who are stuck at home, and you have mountains of DVDs, and you've got a Synology, or you've got some other device that can run Plex. You can very easily start converting your media over to digital. And somebody in the comments said that there's a utility that will there's a fix match option in Plex. So I'm going to have to check that out. I'm not a Plex master, but I have the Synologies, and we love movies. And so I'm going to check out that. So what I'll do is I'm probably going to film this video. We'll release it, and we'll talk about the fix match and all those things. So let's go back to the comments real quick. So somebody asked if I have a brand of hard drive that I love. So depending on what you're doing, so if you're doing like surveillance station, I would either use Western Digital purple drives, or I would use the Skyhawk drives, which are surveillance drives. If I'm doing just bulk storage of files, you can use red drives or Iron Wolf drives. If you're looking at data center type stuff, there's the Exos EXOS drives, but then there's also Western Digital Gold. If you're getting into the SAS arena, the model numbers are a little bit different. And I'll get once we publish that UC 3200 video, you will know that there is definitely a difference between SAS and SATA drives. So, and Jerry Scroggin just said something about home run HD home run. I want to talk about that in just a second. Sorry, y'all, my voice is starting to fade here. So, yeah, and Sean Wood says that the NAS hard drive for him, Seagate Iron Wolf Pros, which, by the way, not only have an excellent warranty, but come with 5 years of data recovery. And the Skyhawk Pros are what we have started using. Now, I will tell you, any manufacturer can have a bad batch of hard drives. It happens. And so we were using Skyhawk for one we were getting ready to deploy. Put the Skyhawks in, and man, they were noisy. Replace them with Western Digital purples. So I think we just got a couple bad batches, because it's definitely not what we've experienced out of Seagate. So, yeah, and home and office, make sure that if you want that data recovery, it can't just be the standard Iron Wolf. It has to be the Iron Wolf Pro. That is the drive that you get the extended warranty and the data recovery with. So, all right, let's take a look at the comments here real quick. Let's see. So Unky Joe, Cisco small business. 1 is not Linksys. 2 requires no subscription fees unless you want to use Cisco Umbrella, in which case is very affordable, which is totally different than the Meraki side. Let's see. Yeah, USG XG should have never made it as far into production as it did for them to just halt production, which it was ridiculous. Let's see what else we got here. So I am waiting for Cisco to send me a couple APs. Shipping for all kinds of things is up in the air right now, but I do have a full stack for the Cisco products we've been talking about, and on price, they've been beating Ubiquiti hands down. So when you look at what the routers do, so price for performance, Cisco Small Business, which is not Linksys, has been slaying Ubiquiti. I've got so many customers that want to move away from Unifi at this point because of all the firmware problems, all the consistency problems, and they like to understand where a company is heading and what products are aimed at who, and there's just no clear direction at Ubiquiti right now. So it happens. So no, we are going to hop over to my production UCM. But before I do that, let me pop up the phone number here. So if you have a question you would like me to answer by phone right now, please dial in. If somebody dials in, I will take the call before we upgrade the UCM firmware, because when we upgrade the UCM firmware, if I am on kind of like autopilot here and mess something up, then I could mess up my inbound, outbound calling. So right now, 309-571-1304, which, by the way, this is a Telnix number, which I highly recommend them. They are fantastic. They are awesome. If you have questions you would like answered, I am taking those live right now. 309-571-1304. We had a little bit of a failure with this last time, but it looks like everything should be working now. So go ahead and give me a call, and we'll see. So a lot of times people don't like to call in, but it is an option right now, and if the phone rings, I will definitely try to answer it. And it looks like we've got a call coming in. All right. This is Willie. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, Willie, this is Matthew
Hold on just a
McGuire.
second.
I'm currently... yes, this is
Hello?
Matthew McGuire. I've been in the live chat with you for a bit.
Caller, hold on. I moved my headphones. I'll be right back. I got to get them plugged in. Stay on the line.
Okay, there you go.
All right, let's see if I can hear the caller now. All right, caller, who am I speaking with?
All right, it's Matthew McGuire. I've been, floating around here for a bit, and I actually had a good question for you.
Hold on just a second. I'm glad you called in. Can somebody in the comments let us know, can you hear Matthew? We're waiting just a second here to see if they can hear us. And
Yeah, I can hear you, Willie.
perfect. All right. So, how can I help you, Matthew?
I've been in the forums before a little bit, back when you encouraged me to do some, freelance work. I actually got the work, but it's a small village. It's local to me, and their network is an absolute mess. And I'm trying to figure out, one, how to fix it, and the users have some bad habits too. So it's like, I want to break in IT. I want to get into the level like you, Chris, and everybody else is in, but my life's been pretty difficult doing so. And at some point, I'd like to send you, maybe my resume or credentials and seeing where I can improve myself.
Sure, absolutely. Send it over. So one of the things that I have a real hard time with is, they keep saying that we've got a million job shortage in IT and that we don't have qualified people. So we need to bring in people from outside, the United States. I have a real problem with that because there are people like you that are willing to learn, that are willing to do that. But there's a whole culture issue that we've got to deal with. But my goal is to help you get better and so that you can do these things. So I would absolutely love to take a look at it. But let's talk about your village real quick. See if I can give you some pointers.
Okay, so they, without going too much, because they also have a police department, they are being forced to upgrade to Windows 10. They have a VoIP system that's on AT&T, and the thing is, as far as I could tell, garbage. The previous gentleman that was on the IT had been demoted by the mayor, and now I'm to take over on recommendation from another gentleman who I've helped, redo his network, put a little network cage in his place, and he recommended me over to him. So it's in my eyes, it's a little scary because it's like I'm pretty much going to be the frontline guy for them.
So I would encourage you to document everything that you can to make your life easier. So James can attest to this, but we document heavily because the way that that I run my consulting is never done during business hours. I keep a very clear separation between my day career and my night career. So documentation will definitely be your friend. And municipalities, that's something that I know a little bit about, and they are definitely special in the fact that when you start looking at repairing roads, maintaining buildings, and things like that, a lot of times you can run into conflict with IT, right? So how do you justify new IT gear when you got to pave the roads, right? So it's a very fine line. But as far as municipal government goes, there are some avenues that you can go down to get funding to do things appropriately. So if your municipality sells debt, sells municipal bonds once a year for capital projects, that is something that you can be talking with the management. And a lot of people maybe listening don't realize this, but usually in municipal government, you have actual employees who are on the payroll, but then you have trustees or whatever you want to call them. Different municipalities call them different things, but they are elected officials. Sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're volunteer, and there's a real split in between what, or a real clear division in between what the elected official is allowed to do, and then that's governance versus operations. So the employees deal with the operations, but there's a little bit of overlap there when it comes to spending and things like that, because a lot of places will have spending authority up to a certain amount, and then it has to go to the board for approval and things like that. So you do have some avenues to get new gear in there. And there are a lot of things that are very government specific. So you're going to want to do a lot of research too and kind of go in prepared. A lot of government agencies don't. So I'll give you an example. So here in the state of Illinois considers your driver's license number to be personally identifiable, information. And so municipalities who are even just collecting driver's license numbers are under a certain responsibility to make sure that that data is protected and do it properly. So there's all kinds of moving pieces to this. So while it may sound like this might be a huge mountain for you to get over, I assure you that I believe that you can do it. And it may take a little bit of help. But, if there's any kind of resources, that we can point you to or provide help, when people email me, when I email them back, the first thing they're always like, oh my God, you replied, right? I don't always charge for everything, like advice like you're looking for. I know what kind of a pickle you're in with this. And so I'd be more than happy to help you get to the resources that you need, to make things right.
Yeah, the big thing is, like you said, either getting the mayor or the council members, as you mentioned, on board with what actually needs done, because as it was depicted to me by the other gentleman who was kind of maintaining their IT, because like I said, he was in the police department, they've been on autopilot and cruise control for a while, and I know they're horribly out of compliance. I don't even know what documentation they have for like you said, what their procedures are for keeping data safe even.
Yeah, and that's something, that you'll have to do a discovery on and then document it. And certainly your time in that situation is not free. What I'm seeing with a lot of smaller municipalities, not necessarily even smaller ones, but they don't take data security serious until there's a breach. And then unfortunately it's too late, because whether you've got insurance for that kind of thing or not, the brand damage is already done, and people are already skittish enough of government as it is. And then once you find out a government entity mishandled your data, allowed it to be breached, and then really kind of just shrugged it off, there's real serious consequences to that.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, even though my mother, kind of accuses me of, saying, a lot of wordage. It's because of things like you said like that. I want people to understand that there's a real repercussion to something, even if they possibly don't understand it. Sometimes I do have throttle back depending on what the subject is, but it's like, if you don't do A, B is going to happen, right, and B is going to ruin your life.
Right. And I will tell you, it's not a matter of if anymore, it's a matter of when. So
yeah, like the hard drives there, it's like they're not backed up. And like you said, when's that hard drive going to fail? When's that data going to be lost?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, unfortunately, sometimes people have to learn, trial by fire, but also in government. And you will notice the more that you deal with government agencies, a lot of times there is a lot of verbosity in the way we explain things. And it's just the nature of government and private business. And you can ask anybody who does business with me, and I help them support their business. I don't mince words, and but in government, sometimes you have to do that, right? There's an expectation of how things will operate. So you'll have to get used to that. But no, hang in there and definitely email me. And municipal IT is something that I specialize in. So definitely keep me up the loop, and I'll definitely help you out and pass you any resources that I can.
All right, will do, Willie. And thank you. I'm glad I was able to help you also do that test as well. I actually had to mute my TV audio so I could actually talk to you properly.
Right on, right on. Hey, thanks for calling in, and have a great weekend, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Oh, will do. I'm on the front line of pharmacy stuff right now, so I thank you for your best wishes, man.
All right, man. Hang in there.
Yep, thank you, Willie. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. All right, that was our first call of the day. Thanks for calling in. And if you've got any questions you'd like me to answer. Oh, another call coming in. This is going to be a popular one today. You are live on the air with Willie. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, Chris. This is Mike. How you doing?
Good. I'm sorry, did you call me Chris? Hello? Huh. Somebody must have thought they were calling into another show. So, yeah, if you want to get any questions answered while I've got the phone up here, that was funny. So can we expect a Telnex video? Yes, expect a Telnex video coming I may actually have James do that Telnex video, and see how that works out. Hey, Luke from Kingston, Jamaica in the house. So, yeah, so I am going to go ahead. Hey, Charlie Z, I'm going to go ahead and take the phone number off for now. I had planned to kind of get through this a little bit quicker than what I did. So real quick, what I'm going to do over here on the other screen is I'm going to pull up the Grandstream firmware page. You can come here, you can see all of the production firmware, you can see all of the general beta firmware. So if we scroll down to, oh, and also there's release notes. So here's one thing that's super important when you're in IT. Some people stop reading. we have to read the release notes, because just because there's a firmware that has been released doesn't mean it fixes all your problems, and doesn't mean that it doesn't create new problems. And that is not just this vendor, that is all vendors. If you look at the release notes for firmware comes with bugs. Read your release notes, please. Is very important. All right, so we're going to go down here. I have a UCM 62 something. And so here, let's take a look at the release notes for, this is 1.0.20.20, which means I'm going to have a busy week of upgrading UCMs. But if we come over here, we can see firmware file information, important upgrade notes. So this is for the 6202, the 6204, 6208, and the 6510. Important upgrade notes right here. And then this also tells you where you should be at before you upgrade it. So before we upgrade to this firmware version, the 20.20, we should be on a minimum of 1.19.29. And there's actually usually a firmware path upgrade that they talk about. So, and I always make sure that I'm just on the latest previous release, right, before I upgrade. So we're going to scroll down here. We're going to look at changes since firmware version 1.20.17. So we've added emergency calling location mapping. Super duper important feature. This is why we are really excited about this. GDMS, so the Grandstream device management, added a SIP server address so you can push SIP information to the UCM. So now we're starting to get that UCM management into the GDMS, and GDMS is going to have an on-prem version yet this year. We've added ARP threshold settings. There's a whole list of bug fixes, but we've listed the limitations. This is one thing that I really like. So now if you're running a UCM 6200 series, they've taken the limit on SIP trunks from 50 to 200. Now, here's the known issues. So there are some issues that you have to be aware of, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they are working actively to fix those firmware issues. So what I got to do real quick is I got to switch back over here so I can log into my UCM. And James is going, oh my gosh. And let me see if I can get into it properly. So I installed an SSL certificate on it using Let's Encrypt. And I was going to do a video on it, except it is, I think that it needs just a little bit of work before I'm comfortable releasing it to the masses to do a video on. All right, so here we are. We are logged into the UCM. You can see we've got SIP US, and then Telnex. And so what we are going to do, real quick, there's a question. Hi, Willie. If you were to design and deploy a new system from scratch for a small business of 50 clients of voice over IP wired Wi-Fi, what manufacturer would I go with and why? I would use Grandstream. I would use Grandstream handsets. I would use Grandstream wireless access points. Basically everything but Grandstream switches. I would even use the GWN 7000. We have ripped out more Ubiquiti equipment in the last 2 weeks. We've done at least 6 GWN 7000 installations in the last 2 weeks, ripping out mostly Ubiquiti gear. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to System Information, and we are on 1.19.27. And let's see here. I think that is where... So I need to do an upgrade to 20.17 first, it looks like, just to be safe. So let's go over here. Let's go to the UCM firmware here. Okay, so here when we go to download the firmware, this is what it tells you. It says, for if you are on UCM 6xxx on 1.0.19. whatever, please upgrade directly. Okay. And then here they tell you back up your data, including configuration before firmware upgrade is a must. If you're on earlier than 1.0.19, upgrade to 19 first, then to 20. Okay? So we are already on 1.19.27. So we can upgrade this. Looks like we can do a direct upgrade. So what we're going to do is we're going to download the firmware file. And plus, if you do need to get those other firmware files, they do provide all of those previous firmware files here. So we're going to download this. While that's downloading, we are going to come over here and we're going to run a backup. Let's see. Let's add a backup. And so you can only do certain types of information to local or USB backup. I don't need CDR. I want my config and my recording. I don't need fax, voice prompts, 0 config. And let's see. Today is March 28th, 2020. Let's go ahead and back this up. If storage location is set to local only, config file can only be selected. So I'll have to uncheck all this, and if I lose that, no big deal. I can always re-record it. Unky Joe, I do have a video, an intro video on the GWN 7000, and we have a few more videos coming up on that just because we really like that product so much. Now, if you have a NAS, just know that you can mount a NAS to this. You can put an SD card in, a USB drive, and you can do full backups everywhere but on the local machine. But I'm going to go ahead and download this config file just in case things should go south. And let's see here if there's anything else I need to be aware of. And I will tell you, even as many of these as I've done, I always get confused on this, whether I have to. So there's one version of the firmware for a device that you have to extract from the zip file. There is another one where you don't have to do that. And so just in case I get it wrong, I am extracting the firmware, and I can't, for the life of me, off the top of my head, I cannot remember if this is the one we have to extract ahead of time. But all right, so we are going to go into maintenance and upgrade, and it wants to know, how do you want to upgrade? Well, I'm going to choose a file to upgrade, so I'm going to choose that real quick. I'm going to go back here because I don't want you to see all the stuff that is in my downloads folder. So we flip back over. All right, so here it is. Here is the extracted. It's a bin file. So we're going to do this. Now, like I said, this could actually be totally wrong, and I could have to have the zip file for this. So some of this stuff, you just get in the habit of doing it, and we do a lot of firmware upgrades and things like that. So we always need to make sure that that we've tested the firmware in our own lab. If you're deploying for customers, make sure you're testing in your own lab, and then make sure you test before deployment. So this hasn't puked yet, which means I may have been right in extracting that. I couldn't remember. I guess I just need to make a note on the whiteboard over there that says phone firmware don't extract if you're doing a manual upgrade. UCM firmware extract if you're doing a manual upgrade. So as you can see there, you can actually pull this firmware directly from Grandstream, or if you've got a web server on site, you can download all of the Grandstream firmware to your own server and point to your own URL. So, hey, Quick Tech Solutions in the house. Hope everybody's hanging in down there. So you can see that we're still upgrading the firmware. So while that firmware is upgrading, does anybody have any questions over in the comments? So yes, we do support free PBX. I personally don't touch the free PBX stuff. James touches all that free PBX stuff, and I would actually consider James to be a Grandstream expert. But also, I would consider James is probably the best free PBX guy I've ever worked with. Morgan down in Texas is actually really good too, but I don't work with him as much. But I work with James consistently. So if Morgan happens to hear this, I want to say hi to my buddy Morgan down in Texas, and he's really good too. In fact, his company is actually writing plugins, reporting plugins for free PBX, and I keep telling him that I'd like to get my hands on them and have James check them out. So as soon as they have those, I'm hoping he'll pass those over so James can take a look at them. So this upgrade is still going, which is fantastic. And we will see. What we'll do is we will let the system do its thing and upgrade, and then it'll have to reboot. We'll do a cursory check, make sure everything looks like it's there. Then I'll open up for calls one more time just to make sure that everything is working appropriately. So I'm going to look at my soft phone, which I'm using Grandstream Wave on my old cell phone, my old LG G6. And if you are deploying Wi-Fi networks for customers and you're like me and you have customers that have specific demands, so people want to know, like, why do I have so many different cell phones laying around? It's because when a customer gets a hold of me and they're like, hey, we need to build this kind of Wi-Fi network and, we're going to use these kinds of phones, I have to be able to test it, right? If I'm building it out here, I have to make sure that I know that it works. So sometimes that's why I have so many different devices laying around. All right, firmware upgraded successfully. Restart? Okay. So now the phone system is rebooting. And it cracks me up on a lot of these devices when they give you a specific amount of time that it takes before you can log back in. So this one says, please wait 2 minutes and log in again, which I think is hilarious. So my my soft phone has not disconnected yet, but that I'm not holding much stock in that at the moment. Just because it could have failed over to a different device. Let's see. Yeah, so I failed over to a different device temporarily. So this thing is going to reboot for us, and then we should be on the latest version of the UCM software. Now, John Haynes is asking, does Grandstream have a module for Let's Encrypt, or do you have to set up something outside of it? No, John, they do support Let's Encrypt, but I've asked the developer to I'm reading the comments. I'm laughing at Silas. Silas is laughing because I'm an IT professional that's not concentrating on doing a firmware upgrade. So I'm doing it here in the lab. If it blows up, I can fix it. I've got a backup. But I wanted you all to see this live. This is not something that we've done. So if you don't care for the way I'm doing it, you can go ahead and leave. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of other people that'll take your place. So, I forgot what I was actually... So, see, Silas, you got me off track again. Oh, yeah, so Let's Encrypt. So, I will show you that it does support Let's Encrypt, but it's not straightforward. So, I've asked the developer to implement some changes to make it more user-friendly for people who are not me, right? So, for people who don't have an aptitude, a want to, or a skill set to do the troubleshooting, because it does work, and I do have it working here, and now Silas, I'm just giving you a hard time, buddy. So no harm, no foul. Everybody should just be relaxed and having a good time. But somebody says, hi, Willie, I'm surprised that you have your doubts about Unifi in the future. So what are you suggesting with Wi-Fi company? There's a lot of different companies. And so instead of me just de facto saying Unifi is what I'm going to install for everybody, I'm not doing that. I'm evaluating the customer needs. If a customer is going to run any type of anything that needs QoS, it's going to be Grandstream or Cambium. I've got some really cool other access points. The Ingenious access points, I have those. I have some Linksys Pro access points. I have MikroTik access points, which I want to do a video on that, on how to restore the operating system to factory on that. I've got some access points down here that are Aruba. And so not one manufacturer is going to fit, everything. And, if you've been, dealing with Unifi, there's been some issues lately. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say that everything is rosy and cheery in the world of Unifi. I'm not going to bash the company, but I'm going to tell you there's been some things recently that I've had customers say we're pulling it out, and I'll tell you, I'm planning. There's a couple sites where there's probably going to be some mass exodus. So they've got some problems in the controller that they need to deal with. As far as compliance goes, they're failing security scans with some HTTP header stuff. They've known about it for 3 months, so I have no problems talking about it here. If you go out to the forum, the Ubiquity community, there's a post about it. I even commented on it, tagged in a Ubiquity employee trying to get an update on it. Because if they don't address that, people in compliance-driven environments are not going to be able to have an on-prem controller. Because a lot of people would tell you, well, yeah, but if you don't understand how a compliance-driven network is put together and how the pieces touch each other, first of all, if you've got a vendor that doesn't understand that, give me a buzz and I'll help you out. But anytime you're running these things in a compliance-driven environment, you can't have these kind of issues. So I'm hoping that they address it before it's got to come to completely loosing the system. So, but anyway, it looks like we are back up and running here. So we're going to log in. Security level of current username or password is too low. Click here to change them. So this is something that Grandstream started a couple firmware revisions back, is that they don't like us using admin for the credentials for the UCM. And I love that they don't love that we're using that. So you now have the option to change the admin username to something different. So you can go in there, change it to whatever your standard nomenclature is for admin accounts. Just being real, I see a lot of people use admin. So, I mean, it kind of is what it is, but if you can change it, definitely change it. So over here on, let's see here, system information. Now you can see here we are all 1.20.20. So we're all upgraded. And some of the features that have been added, so we've got emergency location mapping. So James and I have been talking about this and what you can actually do. So if you've got a campus that's spread out, and this is where like language translation, sometimes when you're working with vendors who have a worldwide presence, sometimes they say something, but it means they know what they mean, but sometimes we have to understand what they mean so that we can actually implement things, right? So under the emergency location mapping now, and if this had a 5 at the end of it, it'd be explain it to me like I'm 5, right? But it's ELIN, so which is the registered emergency location identification number, then the subnet and the location, right? So the location would be the physical geographic location of where this exists, okay? You can, okay, so let's say that I've got a voice over IP deployment that is over an acre of property, and I've got, or let's use something even bigger. So let's say we got 5 acres of property, and we're in town, right? We're and we got multiple buildings, and either those multiple buildings have multiple addresses, or we know it's building A, building C, or whatever. Well, let's say that you've got a phone in building B, room 1, and you need to map a calling number to that. Well, this subnet, if you know the IP address of that phone, you've got it assigned statically so it doesn't change, you can actually put a single IP address in here instead of an entire subnet, and then map that phone to its specific location. So Yeah, so I sometimes see people saying that the UDM is buggy and unstable, and it's maybe no fault of your own, maybe it's no fault of the UDM, but a lot of times what we've seen recently is people are taking the UCM and they are putting it in switch mode and then they're using both ports. Well, both of those ports actually have the same MAC address, so it would have taken some advanced troubleshooting for people to figure this out. But when it's in switch mode, you can't have two MAC addresses on different ports. You start creating network loops and all kinds of stuff. So it all comes back to understanding what the product is doing, and maybe that should be it's out there in the documentation. So if you get a user guide for a UCM and look at some of the information, there is a guide that tells you that in switch mode both of those have the same MAC address. So and then I have other people who say that they've deployed them and they can't make them work, and I've offered to look at them for free, but I think that these people just hate the product or have been trained by someone else who doesn't understand the product to hate the product. And like I said, I could stand here and I could rip on other voice over IP vendors all day, but I'm not going to do that. That's not what I'm about. If you need free PBX consulting, we'll help you out, but I'll pass you to James. And it's not because I don't like the product. It's because I don't personally concentrate on the product. There are some differences that I know I can use free PBX. And so but I'm not going to stand here and just rip on it and say it's unusable and it doesn't work. And so it's all about knowing your product and knowing what you're deploying for the customer. So if you really had unstable issues, it could have been the way it was wired in, it could have been from the way it was configured. But until we get to be able to troubleshoot those things, there's really no way for me to know that. But I'm super excited about this emergency calling stuff because we needed it. It had been in beta and now it's released. So those are really the two big topics there. Now, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to pop the phone number back up and I'm going to set a timer. It's 10:52 Central. I'm going to take one more call and we're going to hang our hats up here. So Luke, I hope that when you're saying Unifi for life, it's just in your home where you've got that. If you are pushing, my plea to you as someone who supports the rest of you is do not push a product on your customers that may not work, because the thing is we can avoid products getting a bad rep if we understand how to use them properly. And it is our responsibility as consultants to make sure that we are doing the right thing for our customers, and pushing one solution on them constantly is not going to be the right answer. So, Alonzo, don't hold your breath waiting for that Unifi Gateway XG Pro. Just like to point that out. So, phone lines are open. Let's see if you can call in. This will let us know whether or not the phone upgrade worked properly. We'll take a call. We're gonna put a deadline here on the live stream. Been live streaming for 98 minutes. My voice is getting kind of worn down here, but see a lot of emails coming in and text messages and things like that, so I'll have to check that out. Let's see. Let's go back to the comments since nobody's calling in at the moment. God's good earth. I'm always reevaluating, always questioning everything, because if we become complacent and we stop questioning and reevaluating, then we become irrelevant. So you should always be looking at your solutions. You should always be evaluating the way you do things, comparing them, reading, learning, never stop. So let's see. Matthew says, do you still recommend the Edge Router X? I've been watching your past videos. Yes, I still do recommend the Edge Router X. Works great for some deployments. So, and Alonzo, I know you've got the FiberStore FSR 3610. So I have a USG XG in the box. Do you want to trade me that router, which I would actually consider like an enterprise level router, for the USG XG? Let me know about that. So don't necessarily type it in here, but we can take that into an email forum. So All right. Yeah. I mean, and that's what we're here for, right? To give advice and help you out, help everyone out, whether you're a consultant, whether you're doing this at home, whether you're trying to learn. It's all about helping each other. There's more than enough of this for all of us to go around. By the way, thanks to Lenovo for sponsoring the PC, giving me this PC they gave me to do this live streaming. You've seen the logo up there. So, well, it doesn't look like we're going to get any calls. So, and that's all right. That's all right. I'm going to go ahead and take the number down. And we are not sure if I want my Synology or WS19 as the DC. Once I pick on one, I'll get started. So you do have to understand the products and their limitations. So there are some limitations in running Synology as Active Directory. For most small companies, most small businesses, you are never going to notice those. But if you are in a huge enterprise, you are probably going to have to run this in a blended type environment. So, and Sean, you can ping me with any specific questions about that offline. So, all right, well, it is 10:55. I want to thank you all for being here. We are going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you for spending some time with me this Saturday. Everybody, be healthy, be safe, wash your hands, social distance, all those things. If you've got questions, problems, you can email. Go down to the williehow.com, fill out that contact form. And, if you need consulting, you can go down there, fill that out. If you just want to say hi, make sure you do all the likes and follows on social media down there as well. Amazon affiliate links are down there. It's appreciated. It's not a must. So everybody have a fantastic Saturday. And Unky Joe, I'll see you on the other side.